So what the hell is normal?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as normal for a child growing up. And I think that was probably the biggest thing that I ever taught Austin was there is no such thing as normal. There's only such thing as your normal.
That
And
is such an important lesson. The myth of normalcy is what you're describing here. And it's actually pernicious. It is especially pernicious in the age of social media because you get this sense that what's normal is what everybody has on their Instagram page. And what everybody has on their Instagram page is just the highlights, the stuff that they're wanting to share about what they're branding themselves. Welcome back to Raising Men. I'm your host, Shaun Dawson. Now, today we're joined by Brandon Martini. He's the co-founder of Stratus Financial, and he's a man who's navigated some of the most intense emergencies life can throw at you. From surviving a professional betrayal that nearly cost him everything to a radical physical transformation where he lost over 100 pounds. Brandon knows that our sons are watching how we handle the pressure. So let's get into it. Brandon, welcome to Raising Men.
thank you so much for having me. And that gave me goosebumps the way that you just explained that. So thanks again for having me.
Well, you know what? It's inspiring to have lived a life that where just describing it can do that. And man, I'm happy to be one of the vehicles that you're using to tell your story to the world. I'm so excited to get into it. Now, I guess let's start with the discovery of your grandfather's logbook. I understand now. So both you and I are pilots. We're going to geek out a little bit over flying today, if our audience can indulge us a little bit. So I would love to start there. So tell me about the discovery of your father's logbook.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was in high school, I wanted to become a pilot. This was kind of the height of the Iraq War, and everybody wanted to go fly like jets or like KC-135s, something big. And every time I went to talk to a recruiter, they always wanted me to just become a grunt and go fight on the ground. And I didn't want to do that. That wasn't my thing. If I can go fly airplanes, I was okay with that. Found out, long story short, later on, I found out that I was talking to all the wrong recruiters. But I kind of gave up that dream when I was in high school. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to fly. But I've always kind of looked to the air. And I remember my grandfather telling me these stories when he was, in the early 90s on how he was learning to fly. And he never finished because my grandmother told me he's not allowed to finish because then Brandon's going to want to go fly with you.
Wow.
Newsflash. She was totally right.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. And he ended up passing away. And I found when we're cleaning out things and going through all this stuff, I found this flight bag. I don't know, it was this big a bag. And I'm looking through it and I found his logbook from the stories he told, but he never showed me this logbook or anything like that. And he didn't have that many hours. He probably had 40 hours, but almost none of them were like training hours. He did like mission trips to Mexico on a Cherokee 6 and he would just have fun flights and he was really just enjoying it rather than probably learning like he should have been.
Yeah.
And I found that logbook and it gave me this passion for aviation. And I ended up wanting to get a flight, and one thing turned into the next and ended up becoming a pilot. And my story will continue going on from there.
Yeah. Well, and so that's a great segue into what happened next. I mean, you decided not only you're just going to go become a pilot, but you decided to make it into a career in kind of an unorthodox fashion. I think most of the people that decide to make flying their career become an airline pilot or something like that. But you started a flight school, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I realized that I couldn't afford flight training anymore after I got my private pilot. I maxed out all my credit cards for, I don't know, at that time, it's funny thinking about maxing out my credit cards for $7,000.
Right.
But I did. I maxed out all my credit cards for $7,000. And nowadays, if I maxed all my credit cards, it'd be a lot.
Yeah.
Like it could almost buy
You'd
a
be
house.
paying that off into your grandchildren's
Exactly.
lifetimes.
But yeah, so I couldn't afford it anymore. And at that time, I was living with my son's mom. Newsflash, probably not together anymore.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that. No, I was living with her, and so I was raising my son, a new. I mean, he was probably 4 years old when I got my initial pilot certificate, and I was an insurance appraiser at that time, and I made good money, enough to go get a pilot certificate, but I didn't make enough to be able to go on the weekend flying all the time and have a $2,000 a month hobby back I don't know, in 2013, 14.
Yep.
So ended up buying an airplane by borrowing money from three different people, telling everyone, "Oh, I already have a third of it. I'm just going to borrow this much and this much, and I'm going to start a flight school." I knew nothing about starting a flight school. I
Wow.
barely knew how to fly, but I started with my flight instructor friend of mine, and we ended up renting a closet at Riverside Airport. And literally, it was a closet. They took down clothes from the maintenance guys, and we converted it to a full-fledged flight school. We sold chips and snacks and stuff to pay our rent every month, which was only $96 a month. That was the epic
Wow.
part. But yeah, we started a flight school with one airplane, and I was doing insurance claims during the day, and we hired one guy eventually to work 4 hours a day. We were only open 10 to 2, like 4 days a week.
No kidding. Wow.
It was fun.
That's amazing. And so this that flight school turns into, I mean, so how did that go? Was it, was it successful? Was it middling? How did that play out?
I ended up getting in a big fight with my business partner at the time, and you know what the fight was about? It was about minimum wage was going up 50 cents in California for only people that worked in fast food, and we paid minimum wage. And my partner said, "I'm not giving an increase. It's not applicable to us. We don't have to do that." And I had a really hard time having somebody work at McDonald's that made more money than working for me.
Yeah.
So it caused this big riff, and ended up I borrowed some money from one of my other friends, made him a very silent partner, borrowed 10 grand. The company
Wow.
wasn't worth 10 grand at that time. It had an airplane that I owned. Well, I owned but owed other people money on.
Right.
And yeah, which I bought for 35 grand, which in
What kind of
2016,
airplane was it?
a 1980 Cessna 172 November model with
Nah,
mid-time engines.
perfect
That,
airplane.
that same airplane today is like $150,000.
150. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
easily. I'm like, well, I scored on that deal. Uh, so that was a lot of fun buying him out, and got him out. And that was only 3 or 4 months after we opened the business. So it was actually prime time and perfect timing to do that.
Mm.
Uh, I ended up building that business. We ended up having 14 aircraft, two locations, two separate 141 certificates, and a 8,000 square foot full maintenance facility. I still have the maintenance facility today. Air
Amazing.
Flight schools, I do not, because I exited them in July of 23.
Wow. And then, so you built that up. That's going great. And then there was kind of a betrayal that happened, right?
There was a betrayal that happened in, I don't know, I think it was late 2020, early 21. I kept on hearing some rumbles that there was another flight school coming, and no one would tell me who it was. The airport manager, who I thought was kind of my friend because I've known him for several years, he wouldn't tell me that who was coming. And I was like, this seems really odd. And it made me
Yeah.
feel uneasy.
Yeah.
So I was asking around, and I mean, I'm fine with competition. I have no problem with the competition. Actually, I was friends with a lot of the competition. And then I found out this flight school that was coming was going to be owned by one of my employees, and I was being betrayed by one of my employees.
Wow.
And he found apparently some rich guy to back him. Ended up he made a bunch of false accusations like about me. He would say that he would call me like a drug runner and a beater and all these crazy things that were 100% false. And I was just like, what is happening? He was basically trying to slander me so people would leave my company, and just he wanted me out of business completely for whatever reason. I don't know,
Mhm.
but he hated me. I had a boat that I owned, and I put on the back of it called Plain Money. And that was the name of my boat. It's called Plain Money, Plane money.
I love it.
And I bought it with money that I would flip from airplanes. And
Okay.
I used to buy and sell airplanes. So I'd borrow money from people. I would buy an airplane. I would fix it up internally. And then I'd resell the airplane. I'd split the profit with my investor. And my maintenance company would make money. People at
Yeah.
the airport would make money. Insurance, everybody's making money on this deal. And
Everyone's coming out, and you get a nice refurbished airplane out of the whole deal, and it's a way to keep your maintenance
my
um
maintenance shop busy.
shop busy when you're not actually doing other paperwork, I imagine.
It was fantastic. It worked out
Yeah.
for so many reasons. But I made like $10,000 on this one deal, and I
Mm.
decided I'm gonna go buy a boat because I really like boats. So I spent a whopping $10,000 on a 1996 boat that was in nice condition. 1996 Bayliner Sierra 2655, the cream of the crop. I'm out here in Newport Beach right now looking at $1 million boats outside.
Right, and you've got your little
My $10,000 boat that
$10,000 boat where the rent for the slip costs more than the boat.
yeah, it did for the first year. And I just, and everybody was jealous of that. Oh, and I had a limousine that I bought for $3,000,
You're
three
riding around
grand.
a limousine, although
Yeah.
you're in the front.
No, I bought it. I actually bought it with a friend of mine, and we were using it to like go to events and stuff, and it was kind of
Wow.
fun. And people would pay
Yeah, that's
for
cool.
it, and we would pay some of the front office staff at the flight school. They wanted extra work, and I was like, hey, if you want to drive the limo for us, oh, you go ahead and do that. So
Amazing.
I think that's where the jealousy came from. They thought I was like this rich millionaire from owning flight schools,
Uh,
and they had no idea what they were getting into. None of them ever owned a business, let alone a flight school. They just thought I was rolling in cash and, oh, I'm buying all these airplanes. Little did they know, I'm borrowing money to buy the airplanes and paying off the airplanes over several years. So it
yeah,
wasn't like I'm rolling in cash like they thought I was.
yeah.
So they ended up opening up this flight school finally, and they called it Westbound Flight Academy. And they opened it 20 feet away from me.
Oh my
Literally,
God.
their airplanes were facing mine on the same like row of tie downs. And then I had that one guy leave. I found out it was him. And then I had several of my CFIs just up and leave, and they went to go work for him. I had my office manager leave, who was like running my show most of the time. I had everybody leave except for two flight instructors that were with me since day one. Also, funny part was those two flight instructors were part-time flight instructors, and they've been around for, I mean, they were my age or older than me,
Yeah.
and they were just doing this for fun on the weekends. But I had one flight instructor who was young and impressionable. His name was Matt. He decided not to leave,
Hmm.
and he was really listening to them. He was unsure on what to do. He was like at this moral crossroads of, do I
Yeah.
listen to all my friends who are flight instructors, or do I help Brandon, who has helped me? Luckily, he picked the right choice and he stayed with me. And I don't say it only because I'm me and I think that I was the right choice. It really was the right choice for him because that flight school lasted a whopping 3 months.
Oh
And
my
all
goodness.
those crazy things they accused me of, their
Turns out they were doing
investor,
them themselves.
their investor was doing that. He was
Oh my
literally
God.
using those airplanes to run marijuana across state lines and do drops. And he got like indicted, and it was all over the news and all over the internet. And I was like, I feel so vindicated right now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But the damage was done. They took a bunch of my instructors. They took a ton of my students, a ton of them. And I was so disappointed. Some of my students I got back after the 3 months, and I openly took them back because they were just
Of
going
course.
based on hearsay, right?
They don't know. I mean, they're not part of the whole thing.
But the part that pissed me off so much was they ruined aviation for probably 30 or 40 people because they'll never go back. They think that that's normal in aviation. Bad talking this other flight school and telling them things are wrong. By the way, they tried calling the FAA on me, saying my airplanes aren't maintained properly. They tried doing all this shady stuff. I welcome the FAA. Come do an inspection of all my airplanes. Come
Yeah.
to my maintenance shop. Come inspect my maintenance team. Come inspect
Yep.
my SOPs. We were 141 certified. So we had to go through all of these procedures
Yep.
and make sure that our airplanes were in tip top shape. And we never failed. We passed 100% every single time. Uh, so I welcomed the FAA, and the FAA basically turned off like they stopped investigating me at that point because they realized that it's just like disgruntled employees creating issues. And it was mind-blowing. I remember one day when all of my employees left that day, literally everybody left within 24 hours. Almost everybody except for those kind of 2.5 people.
Mm.
And I was in my office thinking, what's going on with all this betrayal? I can't believe this. I just moved to a new place in Huntington Beach, so I was planning on not being here that much anymore. Like
Yeah.
I was finally had my team in place so people could run the thing, and they thought that they could run a flight school like without me. And they didn't know what I did in the background, whether it was from home or wherever. And I remember remember it vividly right now. I was in my office just throwing up in the trash can of so much stress and like bawling and crying. And I was so emotional. And it was the worst. It was probably the worst day that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
So
You know, I imagine had that whole thing played out a different way, and that that instructor had come to you and said, "Hey, Brandon, I've got this partner who's interested in bankrolling me to start another flight school. What do you think I should do?" And, he actually opened up instead of going around behind your back and creating a lot of drama and all that stuff. My guess is that you would have given him advice. You would have tried to help set him up. You would have, we all benefit from having more flight schools. And so my guess is that had he done it honorably and above board and all of that, that you would have helped him out.
Oh,
And probably what you
1,000%.
would have done is beware of this guy. Here's all the stuff I have to do behind the scenes. Here's all. Be really, 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 really careful. And instead, he goes about it this other underhanded way and being sneaky and all of that stuff. And it ends in disaster, doesn't it?
Complete disaster for him. I don't know what he's doing now, but I know he's probably not flying. I know he sold his airplane that he owned. He owned an airplane as well, and I know all those airplanes, they got sold off one by one, and I know a couple of those instructors are not even working uh, the industry anymore. They all wanted to work at an airline, and I think 2 of them out of, like, the 5 or 6 that left are not even in the industry anymore, which is terrible. They, like, ruin their reputation. Like, people don't understand
Such
when
a
you
shame.
screw people in this industry or any industry, industries are small.
That's right.
People will always remember. And if I see that guy, his name is Gabe. I don't even care. I'll say it out loud. If I saw that guy, I would tell everybody, do not trust this guy. He's the
Yeah.
biggest snake in the world. And he was. And he tried calling me and apologizing one day. And I took his apology and I was like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
listen to your apology. I
Yeah.
don't know who everybody's blaming everybody else. And I'm like, screw all of you guys. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm not,
It
you
is
guys
what it
put me
is.
through hell and
And
back.
if
I'm not gonna respect you.
I think there's something that I don't think a lot of people understand. I had a friend one time who's a really, really, really smart guy, and he grew up in a really tough area of town. Um, he was just really smart, but he his entire worldview was related to, man, what's the angle? How can I eke out an extra dollar from, this guy or whatever? He was always trying to find the angle. And what he didn't understand, if he had just used his intelligence to create value for the world, then he would have achieved so much and he would have created so much value and he actually would have come out ahead financially. Instead, he was always looking for the angle. He was always looking for, okay, we're splitting the pie 2 ways. How do I get a little bit extra of your piece? And as a result, anybody who was interested in 1 + 1 = 3 stuff, who's interested in growing the pie, nobody wants to deal with him. And so he's stuck with a bunch of other people that are just trying to increase the size of their pies. And he can't even see his whole worldview is it's a fixed pie. And so how do I maximize the size of my piece? By taking part of yours. And as a result, he never actually gets to see the world the way that you and I do, which is that if you and I get together, we can increase the size of the pie. And it doesn't matter if it's 49-51 or 51-49. Those differences are minuscule in the whole scheme of things. But because they're engineered in a particular way so that they see the world in this particularly unhelpful way, they actually don't get visibility into the way it can be if you create real true value.
Yeah, I think that people don't understand the true value of what synergy is, and synergy
Yeah.
is 1 + 1 = more than 2, right?
Yeah.
And they don't look at life like that, which is really sad. I mean, when we get together, if we talked several times over the past month, when we talk, we're like, what can we do together to
That's
increase
right. Like,
increase
how can I
awareness
help
about
you and how can you help me? And let's go do something.
exactly, and let's go
Yeah.
have a good time doing it, and that's kinda my
Yeah.
philosophy.
Right.
You've gotta create something way cool and just have a great time, and, it's
And
gonna
what's
impact so many
interesting
people.
about that, and that's that you're bringing up this story, and that's a little bit of inside baseball here, but you and we can spend 5 minutes with each other, and we can see a kindred spirit there.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I know about this guy. He's a lot like me in these ways, and he's different than me in these other ways. And okay, there's stuff we can do together. And I imagine you saw the same thing. And I don't have to worry, like, I'm not worried that you're going to go off and badmouth me behind my back or any of that stuff, because I can see the way that you look at the world, and you can see the way that I look at the world. And so, and it's obvious. And just as I can see that in you, if you were a snake, I've been around the block enough times to see the snake too, and I just don't even deal with them.
I try to stay away.
Yeah, you just stay
S
away from them.
Serpents
And
are there and
so,
they bite.
yeah, and then, and the funny thing is, if you're one of those snakes and you think, "Oh, I'll just get this extra dollar this way," you don't even realize the myriad of people. The whole world actually does work the way that you think it does, because you are only surrounded by people like that. You have self-selected into a group of snakes.
And it's unhealthy.
It's unhealthy, and it's not lucrative, and it's destructive, and it doesn't create value.
It's
It's
true.
really rough.
It
Now,
is.
well, I love it. Yeah, I love the story. So tell me about, you have a son, and I'd love to understand. You mentioned your relationship with the boy's mom, and let's get into that a little bit. And your son is of an age that, uh, the way that I like to put it is, he's on the freaking front lines of, not only is he on the front lines of an uncontrolled experiment that we're doing with our boys today, but he's on the front lines of a battle. And so I'd really love to get into that. Why don't you tell us about the boy's mom, and how that went, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so my son Austin, he will be turning 15 next month. I had him pretty young. I think I'm 38 right now, something like that, or turning 38.
I
I don't
can't
know.
remember how
I
old I
can't
am, but
remember. I
yeah,
know how old he is now,
that's
but
right. How funny.
I had him in my early 20s, and it was a rough time to have a kid in your early
Yeah,
20s. All of your friends were out partying and having a great time, and here I am. I'm the first one to have a kid in my entire friend group.
yeah.
And when I was younger, I didn't want kids. I was like, I'm not going to have kids.
Same here.
Um, and I didn't see mental value in having. I didn't see any value in it. I just saw takeaways. Nowadays, I see the polar opposite of that. I see the lessons that I'm learning as a man and as a father, that I would have never learned unless I had my son, which is incredibly beneficial. But
Yeah, there's an interesting, when you're younger, you oftentimes, you look at the world in this transactional way. You're like, oh, okay, this is going to cost me $1, and I'll get $2 back, and so it's a good idea, and stuff like that. And having kids is one of those things that, it never, from a transactional standpoint, you can't justify it at all.
the
It
math
is
doesn't work
it,
out.
the math doesn't work, but it is so unbelievably valuable. It's valuable in ways that you cannot even imagine. And so, if you're analytical the way that I am, and the way that you are, you'll never be able to come around on it. And but then when you do it and you look back on it and you're like, man, I'm really glad it happened that way.
Same here.
And it's this perfect kind of illustration of the limitations of looking at the world in a transactional way.
Yeah, I'll also say, I think as a young father, somebody who wanted to provide for his new family, I mean, I went full bore. I wasn't living with my son's mom when she got pregnant. I lived on my own because I moved out when I turned 18. I went back to my parents for 6 months at a time, maybe once or twice. But I was living on my own. I had my own career. I was making decent money for the time. And I immediately got a new apartment, bigger place, moved her in right away while pregnant, like within weeks, moved her out of her parents' house. Uh, and we played family. And it was eye opening. I learned so much about myself and being with somebody. Uh, and and after you do that, and then as soon as the kid comes, your whole life is flipped upside down. I mean, I remember when I was at the hospital and had Austin, and literally they had more people at that hospital than they've probably ever had for a birth of a child. He was surrounded by so much love with
That's amazing.
family on both sides, and I probably had 40 of my friends there, 40 of them. Like I said, I was the first one. There's pictures, and they were drinking in the waiting room, like having, like celebrating. I mean, it was just such a joyous time. But I
I love it.
remember I was there, and it was me, Austin's mom and of course him, and my grandmother called her Moose. There's a whole long story about Grandma Moose, who's no longer with us today, but that was my grandfather's wife, who we talked about in the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And she was with us, and she drove with us on the back, and remember leaving the hospital, with Austin, and I'm like, "Are they allowing me to take this baby
Oh, it's
home with
insane.
me by
It's
myself?" I
insane.
don't know if you felt that way when you left the
Oh,
hospital,
yeah, 100%.
but I'm, like,
100%.
super careful putting him in this car seat, and I'm like, "Are they really letting me take this home? Like,
Yeah.
I don't have to, like, sign him out?" I think maybe I did, they had to cut off something, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it felt so unreal that they're
There's
letting me
no
take this baby
license.
home. There's no license for a baby. I think you
Yeah,
need one. Maybe not really, but some people probably should have one. But it taught me so much about of life of having my son. And I found out a few years later, hey, sometimes you just can't put the kid 100% first. You have to put your own feelings as a man first. And you have to have those hard conversations with your woman. And if it's not working out and you can't come up with those differences and fix those things, then maybe you should move on. And I will say, if I was older, I think, and more emotionally mature, because I wasn't emotionally mature in my early 20s, obviously,
yeah,
uh, I we probably would have stayed together. We were together for 14 years, on and off. We started dating at 14 years old. We broke up at 20 when I was 28. So
amazing.
we probably would have stayed together if I was more emotionally mature. And I've learned a lot through the years of raising my son and having very deep, in depth conversations with the women that I date, especially when it comes to relationships and what you want in relationships. And I think it's very hard to have those conversations long term. And luckily, it turns into raising good children. But raising teenagers is a whole nother story now.
How's your relationship with your son's mother now?
Fantastic. It's not as good for him with her right now, because I think kids go through that. Uh,
Yeah, I think it's probably both ways.
It does, it does. I mean,
Yeah.
he screamed at me a couple weeks ago and was yelling at me, "I don't like you anymore, blah, blah." Okay, sounds good. I know. I
It's
did the
tough to
same.
be, man, imagine what it's like to be a 14-year-old boy now. It was hard when I was 14, and now, oh my gosh, and we'll get into some of that in a minute.
But, yeah, I mean, it goes to that. I remember telling my dad that I hate him inside the middle of the street, and we got almost into a fist fight by pushing and
Yeah,
shoving. It
right.
was the first time I realized that I could take my dad, and I didn't. Thank God. But it almost turned into that as a teenager. So I'm thinking my son's now going through the same stuff, but I get along great with her. Literally, I have no issues whatsoever. I haven't had issues with her in years and years and years. Even when she's married now. She's got a nice husband. Him and I will hang out and commiserate over her every once in a while. Uh,
Yeah,
but we'll hang out and we have no problems.
yeah,
He texts me and talks to me about guns and cars, and we have kind of similar interest.
that's great.
Uh, so we have a blast, no problems. And
I
I
love
mean,
it.
when my son broke his collarbone the first time, Austin just wanted her to come to the house, and she stayed in my guest bedroom. My
Wow.
girlfriend didn't care. I mean, it was just everybody knew. Like that's what I mean by the level of emotional intelligence. There was nothing there. It was just, hey, I co-parent. My son wants his mom around. She sleeps in the other room. It worked out nice, and that's what I think co-parenting and real emotional maturity really is in today's
Yeah,
day
and it
and
would
age.
be so easy to let your ego get in the way and, get butthurt about the fact that it didn't work out between you guys or either, right? It only takes one of you guys to decide to create drama for there to be drama. And so both of you actually have to decide, no, 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 okay, we don't have a choice. We have to have this son together. And we can either like maximize his potential here. Or we can create a bunch of drama that's just going to ruin everybody's lives and he's going to end up worse off. And if we just get over ourselves and just say, all right, well, given this is the situation, how do we maximize the benefit here? What do we do? And it turns out that, wow, okay, we can be partners and raise this kid together and it can be awesome.
I fully agree. Fully agree.
Yeah, I've seen that happen. I've got some buddies that are there that are in that type of situation. I'm fortunate enough to still be married to my wife with our kids, the mother of my kids. and it's great. And I think we're really fortunate to be able to have that. But you know what? If that didn't work out, and there have been times when we've had discussions like that. What would it be if things are really tough? We how are we going to make this work? And we consider what that would be like. And I'm hoping that we would have the exact same emotional maturity you're talking about too, if it were to come to pass, and hopefully it won't.
Hopefully it won't. And but the fact that you're even able to think about it and talk about it in direct
Yeah.
ways like that says so much about you and so much about your wife and so much about a relationship that I don't think a lot of especially young men are starting to understand today. I try to have conversations with my son about emotional maturity and what it means to have conversations with people and the small things, shaking a hand when you meet somebody with a firm grip and
Yeah.
looking somebody in the eyes and just the basic things that young men are not getting nowadays,
Yeah.
especially with the COVID kids. I mean, those kids would just look down at you and like, just sorry, nice to meet you. If you can see me on video, I'm like putting my head down away from my microphone. But that's the things that kids were just okay with. And that's, I think, what's been happening when only mothers are raising children. And there's a lot of deadbeat fathers in this world, that's for sure. But I think there's a lot of deadbeat mothers that try to take their fathers away from their kids because they think that they just need their mother. And especially with men,
Yeah,
they don't
or
realize
their
how much they
their
need 'em.
egos are mixed up in it. It goes back to that thing. It's boys need positive male role models, and I mean that's boys without positive male role models have much worse outcomes than boys that have them. It is an undeniable fact, and so I mean it can come to pass where if you're a single mom and the father of your boy is gone and doesn't want to be involved in your son's life, then you have to solve that problem another way. But man, it is just such an unbelievable tragedy where the mom pushes the father away because you have somebody there, you have somebody already invested in your son's future, and you're pushing him away for your own ego reasons. It's a real tragedy, and it really harms your boy, I would
Yeah,
think.
and I think that most women realize that once their kids become in their 20s
Yeah.
and they start resenting their mothers for that type of stuff.
Wow.
Which it's just something I've noticed. I don't have any empirical data on that, but but I have noticed it, and it's tragic. It's literally ruining children, men and women alike, just young men and women. It's very sad to me. Uh, I really I really hope that kind of changes and the divorce system in the US. Uh, that's unbelievable. Actually, in California, it's probably one of the best because it rewards mothers and fathers equally, at least in terms of custody and time. But I think that a lot of men still just rather, oh, they're probably better if they're just with their mother more often than me. I don't want to put them through 1 week with me, then 1 week with them. I'll tell you what, every kid doesn't know what normal is. Every kid has, I used to tell my son this because he used to complain, my life's not normal every once in a while. And I'm like, Austin, what's normal? What is normal? And he was like, this, and this. I'm like, that's normal for that person. This normal is normal for you. So his normal today is he rides his bike with his friends all the time. His normal today is he goes for rides on my Duffy boat. His normal today is going for rides in supercars. That's his normal. That's not normal for most other kids.
That's right.
His normal is also he lives with me full time. He doesn't see his mom very often. Some kids, their normal is the opposite of that. And
Yeah.
some kids, their normal is they go in and they see both parents living together, absolutely miserable, yelling and fighting and hating each other and living in different rooms. And that's their normal. So what the hell is normal?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as normal for a child growing up. And I think that was probably the biggest thing that I ever taught Austin was there is no such thing as normal. There's only such thing as your normal.
That
And
is such an important lesson. I love that sentiment. I haven't necessarily thought about it like that before, but the myth of normalcy is what you're describing here, and it's actually pernicious because you think and it is especially pernicious in the age of social media because you get this sense that what's normal is what everybody has on their Instagram page. And what everybody has on their Instagram page is just the highlights, the stuff that they're wanting to share about what they're branding themselves. And so as a result, you're getting just this constant input of the commercial version of everybody's life and comparing it to the actual reality of your own. And you think that that's normal because that's all you're ever seeing. And it's really, it affects your ability. It affects your opinion of yourself, your self-esteem, your feeling of self-efficacy and self-confidence. All of that is just really, really negatively impacted by this sense that everybody else is normal. It's really, really pernicious.
It is. I mean, I'll tell you, my life is not normal, but it's
Yeah.
my normal. It's also what I've created for it. So it's the way that it goes in all of life. I'm sure billionaires think their life is not normal, but it's their normal.
Yeah.
And same
Yeah.
with
That's
people who are
exactly right.
poor. I think that also correlates with happiness, by the way. Normality and normal and what you have and what you don't have. I'll tell you this, the most, I know this is a little off topic from that, but I think it goes with the same thing on normality. Some of my best friends who have a 9 to 5 job and they work some overtime hours and they go home and they see their wife and they see their kids and they don't have to worry about work when they get home. They're just done for the day and they work and make 100 grand a year and they work really hard.
Yeah.
But they're some of the happiest people I've ever met, rather than the people who go and crush it and try to make $1 million in a year. And they're always on their phone, like me. I mean, I'm always on my phone. I did a trip to Europe last year for 35 days, and I said, "Hey, after this time in the afternoon, it is now time for working on the West Coast or the East Coast." And literally, my hand is just in my phone. I'm not talking to anybody. None of this is happening, and it just is what it is. And what makes you happy? I'll tell you this, me going 9 to 5 job every day, having to grind it out, I would be the most unhappy person in the world. But still, those people that do that sometimes seem to have a happier life than I do, which is really kind of an interesting
Yeah.
thought. So I like to let kids know and to think about that when you raise men. You've got to think what makes you happy and what should you go after. And I also don't believe there's any such thing as happiness. I think there's such thing as contentment. Like, does it bring you contentment rather than happiness? And I've gone through a diatribe of what makes happy. And one of these days, I'm going to write a book on happiness versus contentment, and if happiness actually exists.
I
Uh,
think that is a valuable line of inquiry. I think that's a really good idea.
if you really
Let's
start
let's
thinking about
switch
it,
gears
sorry.
and talk
Yeah,
about I would love to talk about, you know, as I mentioned earlier, you're with your boy, your 14-year-old boy, I mean, absolutely 100% on the front lines of the war, on our boys. And I wanna understand, how are you dealing with it? How do there are 2 aspects of it that I'd love to explore. And the first one is, we have these devices in our pockets, and it is 24/7 access to porn. It's 24/7 access to games, to gambling, to all of these things that can rewire a 14-year-old brain in a way that is totally maladaptive. Like that when he's 28 will be his life is going to be very difficult if you let that happen. So what do you do about that? And then the second thing is related, which is through these devices and social media and all of this stuff, our boys are getting this mixed message. And there's the mixed message is there's this left coded message about masculinity, that masculinity is bad and that boys should just act more like girls. And it's very like you should feel guilty for having genitalia outside your body. And that's over there on that extreme. And on the other extreme is this right coded message where no, all that stuff that they're trying to make you feel guilty about, all those are virtues. You should embrace being an asshole, and being masculine is about being an asshole. And the fact is that true healthy masculinity is neither of those things. It's not toxic. It's not hateful. It's not putting anybody down. It's being a provider. It's being a protector. It is defaulting to try to make things better, not worse. And so what do you do? Like, what are your tactical approaches to eliminating those pernicious influences on your boy, and trying to get him to cultivate a healthy vision of masculinity?
Well, there's a lot that you asked in there, so I'm going to do my best. But I'm going to start off with the cell phone thing. My uncle, he's got kids around the same age as Austin, and he's taking a different perspective on how to raise a man. He has a young man that's literally a month younger than Austin,
Interesting.
and he has not allowed that boy to have a cell phone still. He's not allowed. He has everything blocked on his computers. If he has an iPad, he's only allowed to call certain people. He's not allowed to talk to other people. Hell, he's not even allowed to talk to my son on there
Wow.
because the way that I'm raising him is my suspicion. I have never really asked directly, but it sounds like that. Um, because I don't block anything from my son. Nothing.
Mm, mm.
My parents didn't block anything from me because they didn't know how. Computers were just coming to age,
Right.
and there was no such thing as parental settings or anything like that. It couldn't block anything from me.
Right.
If I wanted to find something at 12 and 13 years old and go find porn on the internet, I could do that.
That's right.
That was
Yeah.
before the internet really had it. It was more like LimeWire and Napster.
Mhm.
But you could do all of that, right? And I mean, I remember as a kid, if you want to go see something, you had to find the little the pay-per-view channels that weren't paid for, and they would be all you could see one boob on there, right? And
Right.
one of the
Yeah.
things that
Or
we
we
would
we had
do,
a satellite dish,
yeah,
and not a direct TV, like an old school satellite dish where you actually had to move the dish in order to find the satellites, and we would be looking for, the hazy, the naked
exactly,
woman on
exactly.
the, yeah. I
And
remember
so
doing that.
so we all did all that stupid stuff back then, and it was harder than just having one of these devices in our pocket, like you were saying, obviously. I also had computers, and I came up in the age of internet just like you. And I remember downloading AOL for the very first time, sitting in my parents' garage next to the pool table, etc. And and I was able to do anything I wanted because my parents didn't know better. And I come from the aspect of, did I turn out okay? Yes. Do I have my own demons inside of me, just like we all do? Yes, of course I do. Do I think that any of those experiences changed the way that I think now? Possibly. But I don't think it's changed the way so dramatically that I've turned out to be an improper person or anything like that. I just feel like I'm a good person overall.
Yep.
So I decided early on that I would not block anything on my kid's phone, and I would talk to him about sex, drugs, drinking, you name it. I would talk to him about it from a very early age, and I would bring it up to him and tell him all of these things. And I'll tell you now, he has like an unhealthy want of wanting to be outside all the time with all of his buddies, working on bicycles, and I don't know the last time he's played a video game. I know he'll scroll on TikTok or whatever, probably at night before he goes to sleep, and probably watches porn or whatever he does. I don't talk to him about that, but I do tell him about the psychological detriments to certain things and how watching porn is not real life. That is some crazy idea that doesn't always come true. And if you think that that's the way things will, it's going to affect you with things like ED, and it's going to affect you with and he's very uncomfortable talking about any of these things. But
I
I
can
still bring it up.
imagine.
And I tell him, "Hey, Austin, if you're going to drink, I don't want you stealing my stuff and doing the things that I used to do on filling my dad's vodka bottle back with water. I didn't
Water.
really do that, but my friends did, right? I said, I would rather you just do it at the house. I said, if you want to go smoke pot, you smoke pot at the house, and I'll go get you high as you want. So high that he would probably never want to do it ever again.
You'll get sick. Yeah, that's right. That's
Exactly.
yeah.
And that's kind of how my parents raised me back in the 90s, right? I mean, and I've taken a hybrid perspective where I don't stop my son from doing all of these things. I know that he's probably doing them, and I tell him the positives and the negatives, and I want him to be able to make his own choices. Because if I control him, he's going to be. I know a lot of people that are Mormon that are great people, but I'll tell you this: a lot of the young Mormon people that I know, they go out and go wild the day their parents aren't watching them. And I think that if you are like that, your kids are going to go wild, and you've got a 50-50 chance. if your kids are going to go wild and end up in drugs and alcoholism, or if they're going to be extremely upstanding citizens and do that same thing to their kids. So I've gone a little bit different, and I allow my son to do kind of whatever he wants within reason. I mean, I don't let him just go out and go party or anything like that. He has to be home at a certain time, and I check out who his friends are, and but I don't put restrictions. And I think that the way that I'm doing it's working out just fine. Um, he's been turning into a really good boy so far. He's a little too spoiled.
Yeah.
Uh, I have my
I
challenges, and sometimes that's a little hard, but
I love that sentiment. Um, I think it's absolutely the case that if you try and keep your kid in a cage, they're going to want to break out of the cage. And I had that experience when I went to college. I had a roommate who his mother basically controlled every minute of his life, and so when he got away from her, it was just like he ran wild. And this was one of the smartest guys I've ever met in my entire life, and he ended up, not really reaching his full potential, um, really much of any potential at all, because he never really got to go wild in a sandbox. He went wild as an adult, and that's really a shame. And now, I mean, and you got to keep them from making mistakes that will affect the rest of their lives. And so, but your job as a father is to prepare them for the real world, and
yeah,
creating a cultivated little fake world where they're protected from all the malign influences and all that stuff. That's not the real world. And so you're not preparing them for that. You're preparing them for this garden that you've created.
exactly.
And that's not going to serve them. And so whether or not it makes sense to go fully over to the other extreme, as you seem to have done, actually, I think depends on your son's readiness to get exposed to that. He is going 4 years from now, he's going to be out of the house,
Yeah,
and he's going to have those influences, and he's going to be outside of your protection. So you better have broken down the walls by then, and you better have prepared him for doing those things by then. Otherwise, he's he's going to be ill prepared, and by the way, he's not going to feel comfortable coming to you for advice, or talking to you, or even maybe seeking advice from other people, and that's a real problem.
yeah. I mean, two things. When I was growing up, my dad would allow me to have alcohol if I wanted it. And the funny part is, all my friends were not allowed to have alcohol ever.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm talking about late teenage years, like 16,
Hmm.
17,
Hmm.
18. As long as you didn't drive, you could drink at the Martini household, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to drink. I don't think I even really drank until I was like 22 or 23, kind of after I
Same
had.
exact story for me.
Yeah, it didn't
Same
sound
exact.
appeasing because I was allowed to do it. I didn't need to sneak around. I was like, well, if it's not against the rules,
Yeah.
then it didn't really matter, right? And I kind of take that philosophy with my son, and honestly, he just goes out and hangs out with all his friends. I've never I think I
Yeah,
could
one
figure
of
out
the
if he was
things they
drunk, and
want
I haven't
at
seen
that
him do it.
age is independence. They want to assert their independence. And if you give them healthy ways of asserting their independence, like being outside and being with their friends and working on bicycles, then they'll do that. But if you give them unhealthy ways to assert their independence, like sneak around behind your back and drink alcohol, then they're going to do that instead.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's I think that, I don't know that there's a perfect way to handle this moment. I know that we're running a enormous uncontrolled experiment with our boys. And I know that, you're right in the thick of it, and you're on the front lines. Um, and the philosophy of not being, you can't control everything that he's ever going to do. So make sure that he has the skills and the capability of dealing with those things as they come. I think that's a good way to look at it.
I also think that, I mean, as we all know, the media is so controlling, and they put these narratives around in everybody's minds, especially when it comes to femininity and masculinity and all these things like you were talking about earlier. But they also try to say that all the kids want to do is be online, and all they want to do is talk TikTok, and all they want to do is X, Y, and Z. No, I don't see that in a reality right now. I see kids less on their cell phones. I think my son is less on his cell phone than I am.
That's a
And
trip. I think you're probably right about
and
that.
I
And the funny thing is, journalists are the most hyper online people you'll ever know, and so their outlook is particularly warped.
and they're millennials like myself. I'm on the
Yeah.
border, but all the millennials, including myself, we're a fucked up generation. The millennial generation grew up partially without technology because we did. We grew up in our kid years with no technology, and then hyper focused into technology. And then when we all got to college, all there was social media everywhere. So we
Yeah.
had this great time to live, and then we had this. Hey, now we have social media. Now we don't have to have interactions with people. Now we don't have to have a high school reunion. I've never had one. I'm coming up to my 20 year this year, and
Really?
I'm not going to have one. There's nobody doing it. There's no reason to do it because everybody who I'd ever want to talk to is on Facebook
Is on Facebook, and you've been communicating with them
for all
anyway.
these years. The
Yeah.
people I want to, at least I do there.
Yeah.
So I think that like me, I'd rather be on social media all day long. I mean, or I want to go to a bar and go talk to people and things like that. But there's no in between. I think that my son's generation, which is Gen Alpha, they want to be out and they want to go have experience with people. They don't like what their parents do. They want to do the opposite of their parents, just like every generation. I don't want
Right,
to do
right.
what my parents did. They're losers. All they want to do is go hang out and talk on a phone and be on social media. It's really weird. My son calls me like on the phone, calls me more than he
Yeah.
texts me. That should blow everybody's mind.
That does
Almost
blow my
15.
mind.
He calls me and
Yeah.
I see all of his little friends all over the house because I make my house the house to go to, right?
Yeah, that's the
On
greatest
purpose. So I
feeling.
can kind of watch them around.
Yeah.
And all of them are talking on the phone. They are not. And by the way, when they say talking on the phone, I go with my fingers like this. They go like this.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, it's I think that a lot of things are changing for young men, and I think that they're more resilient than we give them credit for, and that may be just my perspective and maybe not as much yours. But there's a lot of things going on, and I know that we're running low on time today. But I mean, I think you talked earlier about the manosphere stuff,
Yeah.
and I was kind of curious on your perspective on that too.
Yeah, I really struggle with it because I think that the algorithms that really dictate what we see and what we don't see, then the bubbles that end up getting created, the algorithms are geared towards engagement. And engagement can be manufactured by anger, right? And you get people riled up. And I think that when you look at the messages that our boys are getting about masculinity, I think that it is a really it's ripe for getting people riled up. And the algorithm wins. If you're mad at the left or you're mad at the right, the algorithm wins as long as you're mad and as long as you're scrolling. And I think that we should be really, really, really careful about engaging in that kind of structure. And as a result, and it's not, you alluded to it. Your boy doesn't filter the world through social media the way that I think maybe you and I do. And that's really healthy. Actually, it's far healthier than the way that that we're doing it. And so it's my sense that the world is trying to impose this vision of masculinity, either dictated, the left coded version where masculinity is evil, or the right coded version where or the hyper right coded version where evil is virtue. Um, in real life, that's not the way it is. I mean, in the interpersonal, actual interactions that real humans have, it's not that way. And so, maybe the answer is just to have more interpersonal reactions that humans have, right? Have more
I,
discussions.
I agree. I agree in a way, but I think that the people who are putting out all of the men's rights type of stuff online, and I watched this documentary, and I know you haven't seen it yet, so I'm not going to spoil the whole thing for you, but you got to check it out, the Manosphere one.
I will
It
be,
was
and I'll be doing an episode about it. I need to,
oh,
I
you got to text me after you hear it.
process it.
It's
I will. Yeah, maybe we'll do a watch party together.
oh, I'm down. So there were some things though that these guys will say out loud that actually I think gives men. I think that most men who watch these guys, I'm not going to say all, but I think most, and I really truly believe that, see these guys as like they're assholes. They really are. I mean, the these guys will go out and they treat women like trash. And I think
Yeah,
that if any guys watching them actually go and do those things, I think they learn very quickly that hey, it's good for
right.
shock value. It's like Howard Stern back in the day, but it's not
Mhm.
good for reality. But I will tell you that certain things when I was growing up, I mean, pickup artist is like a thing with the manospheres down now. And I will say, when I was a young man, I was a chubby guy, but I had more confidence than anything because
Yeah.
I would watch like the guy Mystery, who was a pickup artist, and they had a
Oh,
TV
I
show,
remember that guy.
and I
Yeah,
read the book on it, and I was like,
yeah,
wow, these are just little things to make you more. And it actually works out well in your life because then you become more confident, right?
100%.
Um, and maybe not to use as a pickup artist, but to use as confidence building. And I think that there's always in negative things, there's always a little bit of positive, and that's probably how they became so big and they became more negative.
Yeah,
But a lot of them are really big into father's rights. And I mean, a lot of men don't have any rights or they get trampled upon. And if they're in bad states, they're really going to get trampled upon. And some of these things are talked about by the Andrew Tates of the world and some of the others. He's probably the most popular.
I
Uh,
think that you and I are probably in violent agreement about that. I think that part of the issue is that there's 20% of what they talk about. The initial 20% is like that. It's they're the only ones who are talking about these really, really important things. And then they use that as a gateway drug into their grift. And that first thing is healthy and good and important, and it needs to happen. That second thing is bad. And we can separate those two things out. And some of those messages, our boys need them. Our boys need that message about self-confidence. Our boys need that message about self-worth and self-efficacy and those sorts of things. And if they're not getting it from us, if they're not getting it from our culture, they're going to get it from another place. And that other place doesn't have their best interests at heart.
it really doesn't. It really doesn't.
And so,
So
like,
I
but
guess
yeah,
we were more aligned than I figured
yeah,
on this
yeah,
topic, so
we're
which is
quite
nice.
aligned. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
quite aligned. Well, I always love to finish up these conversations by asking people, give me like, can you think of one principle that you would use to when you think about raising healthy men with strong, healthy, excellent masculinity? Give me one principle.
Honesty and directness.
Oh man, that is so good.
I mean, I didn't
That
even
is
have to think
so
about it.
good.
It was just like instantly because
Yep.
that's the way that I live my life when it comes to my relationships. And when I say relationships, I don't just mean like sexual or emotional relationships with a woman. I mean relationships with all people, because our friendship is a relationship. The people that work in my office, that's a relationship with them in a workspace. It's all different types of relationships.
Yeah.
And if you are honest and direct with people, sometimes you'll piss them off, but at least they know where you stand.
Yeah.
And it's gotten me in trouble over the years because I'm a little too honest, a little too direct. But would you rather know who I am and know who you're dealing with? Or would you rather have somebody who's tiptoeing around behind your back like some of those people at the flight school did? And I would
Right.
say 9 out of 10 times, people want the honest and direct person. It always works out better that way.
It always works out better. Yeah. It's painful. It's hard to do, but like everything that's hard to do, or that's everything that's valuable, it's hard to do.
Yeah. True story.
Well, Brandon, thank you so much. I have really, really appreciated getting a chance to talk to you about your story. We didn't even get touch on the whole lot of it. So we're gonna have to do that watch party. We're gonna have to do that, and we'll have to get together again. I have really enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate it.
Me too. Yeah, I mean, I would love to be on again sometime, and I know I said the same thing about the aviation one with you. So it sounds like
Have it.
we're gonna be longtime friends, and maybe we can do this again in Q2 or something. But this
I
was
love it. I
fantastic.
love it. Brandon Martini is the co-founder of Stratus Financial. He helps enable people to live their lifelong dream of becoming a pilot. Brandon, thanks so much for being
Thank
a
you.
part of Raising Men.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoy this conversation. If anybody wants to reach out to me, you can reach out to me on my podcast. It's called Aviation Mentors. My email is brandon@aviationmentors.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, which is probably the best place to find me and what I'm doing. And if you're ever out in Seal Beach, California, there's a new wine bar coming. It's called Solera, and come in and have a glass on me. I'd love to meet you there.
I'll be there. we can all go there together. We'll have a Raising Men wine bar
Meetup.
party.
I love it.
I love it. I love it. Let's make it happen. Okay, to everybody listening, thank you so much. And remember, you are a great parent. Raising Men is produced by Phil Hernandez. This episode was edited by Ralph Tolentino.